What's up, everybody? How we doing today? Having a good time? Yeah? Bum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum bum bum. Oh, what a fantastic day it is today. Oh, man. Do 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 do. It's time to go live. It's time to work. It's time to write. Oh my gosh, why is there an ad? Hang on. My goodness, I am totally messing this up right now. There we go. Oh my gosh, why is there... Haha, I did it. I fixed it, guys. You're welcome. My goodness, I done fixed it. I fixed it. Hopefully everybody can see what I'm doing here on TikTok. Once TikTok is set up, turn that audio off. Okay, alright. Now that TikTok is happy and YouTube is satisfied, let's get to work, shall we? Everybody can see what I'm typing. Throw in your suggestions. Have fun while I get the work done. Alright. Where's the light? There it is. The next day, I saw Tom. Now, this is, of course, continuing on our story from jail. Our main character is in jail, and he is having a grand old time. We are working on Chapter 4. Chapter 4, so I'll bring it up so you guys can see. Chapter 4 is all about chef, and is all about the food that you eat in jail and how you have to spend your time making food actually enjoyable. This is by no means an easy task. The number one thing in jail is hot flavored Cheetos. Hot flavored Cheetos. Enjoy the hot flavored Cheetos. Enjoy them. Because that's what you get to enjoy. But hot flavored Cheetos are so good because you can crush them up and you can put them in any kind of food, make them enjoyable, make them actually good and worth your time. So definitely hot flavored Cheetos if you ever go to jail. Alright, we're going to start typing now. I saw Tom going door to door talking to people. I turned to Gramps, who happened to be Tom's current cellie. What's Tom up to? Oh, he's looking for someone to give him some peanuts. I gave a slight laugh. Good luck. He never has enough to trade. But to my surprise... And right now, guys, I'm just writing, right? I'm writing and typing quick. I'm not going through and actually making it perfect or editing. That's going to be next. After this is all typed out, then I'll go back to the beginning of the chapter and I'll start editing it out and get it kind of polished out before I actually send it off to the editor, who does a really good job working on the projects with me. I watched him get not only peanuts, but 2 hot cocoa packets and Butterfingers. That was a big deal. After Tom left, happy as a clam, eating his peanuts, I went over to the same door and asked what Tom had traded. The response I got back was that Tom had offered 1 for 2 back. Apparently, Tom's mom was putting money on his books. Apparently, Tom's mom was putting money on his books. I went back to Gramps and asked him about it. Gramps, by the way, coolest old dude ever. This guy is a war vet, Vietnam vet, old guy. That's why everybody called him Gramps. Interesting facts. So, he was actually in jail because he was a war vet. He had a PTSD episode and ended up killing his wife, shooting his wife dead. But it was because of PTSD that he did it, allegedly anyway. So he's going off to court to try and fight that. So that's why he was in jail, and that's why we're writing about him right now. Well, he hasn't told me about it, but he'd better hurry. He's only got one more commissary order. What do you mean? Well, he's leaving for prison next week. He had told the rest of us he'd be leaving in a month. It was obvious to me that Tom had lied. And now planned to rack up debt without any intention of paying people back. Now, this was a big deal, right? Somebody racking up debt like this, big deal. And not having the intention of paying them back. This is how people die. This is what happens. I mean, this is insane, right? This is how people get taken care of. This is what gets people stabbed. Paying people back. I quickly spread the word. I hated the idea of people being taken advantage of with such blatant lying and stealing. It just reminded me again not to trust anyone on their word. And two, now, as I'm writing this, guys, just bear with me. This obviously isn't a polished version, so there's definitely going to be some serious editing that takes place. Let's see. Let's continue on. As the house that Tom had screwed over came out, the entire group descended upon Tom's door. Their entire time out was spent yelling threats and vile curses through the door, aimed at both Tom and his family. I remember this day. This was a tough day, let me tell you. Anytime that you make someone mad and they're going to start talking bad about your family, it's not a good day. Bang, as someone kicked his door, and it started all over again. Out of respect for Gramps, his cellie, they did eventually tone it down, and Tom offered to give them a handful of desserts and sandwiches. So, commissary is never worth sandwiches. Hey, Herman White. How's it going, dude? Thanks for saying hey. No, it's never worth dessert and sandwiches. It is never, ever, ever worth that. And so the whole idea of stealing commissary, and then having people have to basically settle. That's what they're doing, right? They're settling with some sandwiches and some desserts is huge. It's a big deal. All right, continuing on. We stopped dessert and sandwiches. They accepted begrudgingly. Thank goodness for autocorrect. I can just go through and be like, all right, I mistyped that, now we're good. Tom's lucky. Tom's lucky he had a door between him and them. Although if he knew they could get to him, he may have never taken the chance. No one was very friendly to Tom after that. We took to mostly ignoring him, calling him pizza-faced. Mostly ignoring him and calling him a pizza-faced. Oh my gosh, where'd it go? Oh, pterodactyl. That's what we called him. Here's the funny thing about that. Pterodactyl is the perfect thing to call him. Okay, I know it sounds silly, it's ridiculous. Pterodactyl is totally the word to use for this guy. Just imagine pointy nose, squished in face. That's who he was. That's what he was. Pterodactyl, which was the perfect description for him. Long ass nose and fingers on a body that's 20 pounds too skinny, covered in volcanic zits. Those zits went snap, crackle, and pop. Let me tell you. Jackson and I hated Tom for making trades he couldn't keep. We didn't want, nor did we think, Tom was worth doing anything we could. So we decided to punish him in the ways we could get away with. In the ways we could get away with. Why is my... Let's move that. There we go. I want you guys to be able to see all the words. Okay, now we can see all the words on the screen. So, this was a big deal, guys. Having someone basically steal from everybody, not being able to pay everybody back. Couldn't let that go unpunished, even if we weren't going to stab him over it. Because it wasn't directly against us, but it was against others. No longer allowed to play cards with us. He took to spending most of his time alone in the tablet room listening to music. To interrupt this time, Jackson started running to the tablet room first. He'd then hog it until his cellie arrived to use the tablet. Together they ate up most of our time out, leaving Tom to sit alone watching whatever I'd chosen to be on TV. Or walk circles in the concrete yard. Now, concrete yard is not good. How are you editing today? What's the focus? So the focus today is reading out what I have written down. So when I'm writing, for those of you who don't know, and I'll hold this up real quick, I write everything by hand, and it just helps me personally edit. And I don't know if you guys can see, I've got cursive written down there. I always write in pencil first, cursive, And that way, my first few rounds of editing, I can see the edits that I'm making. I can see the crossing out. I can see word changes. And it just feels good to write by hand. So the story is now at the point where I can safely say that it's ready for other editors to actually take a look at. So I'm transferring it now from the paper to the computer, which is what you guys are watching. I'm reading out loud while I'm typing it out. And then once it's typed out, once this chapter 4, is typed out of the story, I'll go through and I'll edit it again. So that's what's going on at the moment. And this is chapter 4, which is all about food. Chapter 4 is all about being your own chef. And so this guy used food in the improper way. Tom, he stole food, and so now we're going through on how he was punished for stealing this food. And he wasn't stealing like taking it from people. He was stealing like making trades, knowing that he was going to go off to prison so he wouldn't have to pay anybody back, which is just a terrible thing to do. And so that's what the focus is on at the moment. Yeah. So, Tom watching whatever I chose to be on TV. So that was the other thing. I controlled the remote. He could sit and watch TV because I wasn't going to, kick him out of the day room. But I was still in control of the TV. And the concrete yard that I just typed right there, the concrete yard is, thank you for catching us up to speed. You are so welcome. You're definitely welcome. The concrete yard, so that you guys have an idea, imagine a 20-foot by 20-foot rectangle of concrete. That was the concrete yard. Okay, it wasn't like an actual, you couldn't play basketball in it, you couldn't do anything, you were just outside in concrete with fresh air because there was no ceiling. But you didn't see any grass, you didn't see any trees, you didn't see anything. It was concrete. You were stuck. You were stuck and there was no way out. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that you look at now and you're like, oh my gosh, that is awful. And why did they have to build it like that? There's absolutely zero reason for them having built the concrete yard that was just so high. Okay, often he opted to just remain in his house, spending at one point over... Now again, when I say house, this is a jail cell, right? It's not by any means an actual house. People who are incarcerated or detained call it a house to make themselves feel more normal, even though it is a jail cell and it has all the amenities of a jail cell, not a real house. 96 hours in his cell. That's true. He spent 96 hours in his cell. How do I know so much about Thurston County Jail? Well, let's not be super specific on which jail, but I know a lot about jail because I know a lot of people in jail, and I have been to jail myself a few times, actually. So, let's see here. Gramps told me at one point that he often cried, and when we spoke of him, he'd reply under his breath, "I'm not a pizza-faced pterodactyl." I'm not a pizza-faced pterodactyl. That was probably the best. Just one of the absolute best descriptions for him. He looks just like a pterodactyl. I convinced Gramps to flush the toilet in the middle of the night to wake him up and ensure little to no restful sleep. I had no sympathy for Tom. He was an adult and had brought this on himself. Tom got a little revenge, though. The day before he left for prison, he took a giant shit in the shower right before we got locked up for the day, leaving the house mouses to deal with it. Now, house mouses are what you call the people in jail who clean up. Okay, they are inmates. They are other incarcerated folk who clean up the cell or clean up the day room, living space, showers area, and that's what they call them, house mouses. So taking a big shit in the shower before heading off to prison is huge no-no, but there's no way to get him back for it, right? So Luke was especially angry and let Tom know what he thought of his mother, who'd allow her son to turn into such a gutless fucking turd burger on a saltine. It's the little things like saltine that just kind of make the the awful description. Tom, once again, always the door warrior, was safe in his house from all forms of brutally violent retribution taking place. Door warriors are any kind of people who yell through the doors, who make a big fuss, but they know, they would be absolutely destroyed if there wasn't a door between them. The next morning, Tom was taken to prison without a single friend wishing him luck. And that's a big deal, because usually when somebody goes off to prison, everybody's shouting through the doors, yelling their well wishes and hoping that they get taken care of. 2 weeks later, Luke also left for prison with many promises of finding Tom and making him pay for forcing the house mouses to clean up his deuce. I'd love to know if Luke ever got his revenge. I like to think he did. In a next page, keep typing, in a glorious manner. After Luke left, I was asked to be house mouse. I liked the idea of extra food, but the thought of cleaning up shit and other men's children off the bathroom floor with that ever... what's that word? Oh, without even... I'm doing this wrong. Without even gloves was too much. It's amazing to think that the entire ordeal with Tom was all over a small bag of peanuts. But that's maximum. When you're incarcerated, when you're dealing with incarcerated folks, you need to remember this: they have very little, right? So everything seems a lot bigger than it does to us on the outside. A bag of peanuts is nothing, right? But when that's literally all you have, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. So, setting up the new scene. somewhere between the 2 and 6 month mark of being incarcerated, I just started trying anything and everything to make the food enjoyable. A few of my favorites were insert spice it up writing and meal prep and food ideas. Oatmeal with a pink lemonade. Alright, so here we are going to insert spice it up writing, meal prep, and food ideas. And then we also have oatmeal with a pink lemonade, orange juice packet, and 2 sugars. Almost tastes like Fruity Pebbles. Here's the reality. It doesn't almost taste like Fruity Pebbles. It does not. No question about it. However, when you are in the situation that you're in, you lie to yourself and you're like, oh, this kind of tastes like it, so hey, it tastes like it. Shame we don't have a microwave. All our food could be in 100 different ways. That's the big deal right there, not being allowed to microwave your food. And they got microwaves in General Pop. But in close custody, we had no microwaves. So that was a big deal. Although the lack of heat does little to stifle the popularity of coffee. With only so many drugs available. And that's the other thing about General Pop. We did not get message restricted. What were you trying to say that is restricting your message, say? Message retracted. Oh, you deleted the message that you sent. Okay. I got you. I got you. I appreciate that. I just don't like people knowing exactly where I live or the area that I live in, if that makes sense, I've had a few people on TikTok who actually go through and like every single one of my videos and then comment on a ton of them, and it's one of those things that you're like, "Oh, that is so cool. I love that." Yes, I appreciate that. So cool. I love that you're liking all my videos, and then you're like, "Okay, but is this a stalker thing?" And then they start emailing you, and it gets a little much. I so appreciate that. That means a lot. So in closed custody, you didn't have access to all the drugs. You had access to coffee, and every once in a while, somebody new would come in, and the first thing everybody would be like is, "Do you have drugs?" Because they just came in, so maybe they brought drugs in with them. Especially brown, which for those who you don't know, brown is, heroin. You said it yesterday, so I thought it would be fine, but totally understand. I did say it yesterday, didn't I? I might have to go back and make sure that that's edit that out. Okay. Where was I? Oh, microwaves. Caffeine is a favorite substitute. At 30 cents a pop, they're a relatively cheap commissary item, and with a limit of 30, there's always someone looking to trade for more. If at first you don't get the deal you want, tell them to come back when they change their mind. After a little time without the caffeine kick, the addicts return with their tail between their legs, giving into all the Jews' demands. And I'm saying Jews because I am a Jew. FYI, I'm referring to myself. It's not a racial thing. Always be the Jew. And you'll be jailhouse rich too. You'll be shocked at what addicts will agree to. And that's true. Do you get commissary in beginning custody? So, no, you don't. You get commissary. So, there are two different types of commissary. There's commissary if you're indigent, which means you have no money on your books, and you get free commissary items. You get things like shampoo, just basic toiletry items. Is basic commissary, indigent commissary. You did also get paper and pencils for free, which was nice. And so you could get that once a week. And so I think that was delivered on a Wednesday and a Sunday, but you had to order them Monday and Thursday. So depending on when you got taken in and how long your stay was for, you didn't always get commissary your first week. And then you had commissary that you paid for, and that was also twice a week. But to order that in time, you have to have specific times, where money's on your books. A lot of people, when they first come in, try to get indigent commissary because they don't have any money on their books. And then they plan on buying normal commissary after that. The problem with that is, when your family sends money in, all of a sudden, if they send money before you get indigent commissary, you're flagged, and it's like, oh, you have money on your books, so we're not going to deliver this. So instead of getting your free order, you get nothing. And that happened a lot. That happened with a lot of people. I'm going to change that to Yud real quick. Fix that to looking. You'd be shocked what X will agree to. Would agree to. And that's true. The addicts, especially if you had Brown and they were an addict, you could literally say, go give me that guy's ear. And they would do it because that's how desperate they were. Just a sad reality of what addiction does to people when they're incarcerated and there's no way to get what they want. All right. Agree to. Let's keep editing. Let's keep writing. I'll admit, even I enjoyed the lukewarm sink water coffee I mixed with my hair comb. As I sipped my drink, I try to forget that it's a crappy 4-ounce Taster's Choice instant pack. But two of them together, add 2 sugars and a lukewarm cocoa, you almost have something worth drinking. Walking by a couple houses after talking with Leprechaun, I stop and retrace a few steps. Yep, I saw what I'd seen. 2 men were at the desk using playing cards to chop up and snort. This is where it gets a little gross, guys. This is real. This is jail stuff. Chop up and snort something. It was a dark brown, which made me think it may be heroin at first. But they wouldn't be snorting that. Then I saw the coffee wrappers on the desk. No way. No way, I blurted. The big guy turned towards me, exposing a nose and mustache covered in brown coffee crystals. He looked rather silly. His now brown, dusty facial hair moving up and down as he spoke in an unnatural, nasally voice. You guys like me saying everything out loud so you guys don't have to read it all? Don't knock it till you try it. Does it even work? Oh yeah, bro. Caffeine goes straight to the brain. Sure beats drinking the stuff. Escaped my lips as I walked away. Yes, you enjoy me reading it out loud? Okay. Then I will continue reading it out loud. I am, however, going to take off my watch because it's getting a little much. Do. As I walked away. Those dumb druggies are so lost without their fix. They'll stoop to snorting coffee. They looked so stupid with all that brown dust over their noses. Just drink it. Like an audiobook we get to chime in on. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I'm not reading it like I would an audiobook, obviously, because an audiobook I would be a lot more peppy and upbeat, but here I'm trying to like focus and work at the same time. And I'm thinking, like, I'm reading it out loud, I'm not totally sure if I like the sound of everything, so I'm kind of, focusing in on it. Just drink it like... Just drink it like a normal person. Drugs really do make some people retarded. It's still fun. Aw, thank you. As our time ended, I went back to my house and opened a good book. Most of the books in jail are legal thrillers or murder mysteries. There's so many legal thrillers, it's not even funny. It's like everyone is in jail and they want to learn about the legal process, but they want to learn about it in a fun way. So they get these crazy legal books that aren't... nothing that is in this book is ever going to happen, okay? But they still get them, and they try to use... They like write down... I've seen people literally write down exactly what is said in the courtroom, and they're trying to explain it, and it's the funniest thing. They will write down the conversation in the book, and then try to reverberate it back to their lawyer that they're paying for, and be like, hey, you should say these things. You should say these things in the courtroom. You should say these things to the judge. This worked in this book, so obviously it's going to work in real life. And it's just ridiculous. It's never going to happen that way. Can you use a different word than retarded? That's an outdated term and also continues to be used to make fun of disabled folks. So here's the reason I'm using the word retarded, Savannah. I am using the term because that is what the language was used in jail. Now, I might change that in editing. This is not what's going to be published necessarily, but I actually use that term a lot in here as it is the term that everyone uses. Everyone in jail uses the word retarded. And it's referred to everything. People are called gay too. People are called gay all the time, and it's not because you are physically gay. It's a way to say it. Yeah, so that's the reason for that. I might change it later, or my editor will change it, and I will just have to sit there and be like, okay, I guess we're changing that. But for now, I'm gonna keep it. Bum 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 bum. Where's my water? There we go. Much better. Currently, I was reading about the hired killer who used guns, poisons, and cyanide spray. I am, of course, referring to the only killer who used such things. Well, not the only one, but the best known one, or the only one I can think of. Which is, of course, the Iceman. Iceman, very famous guy. It was really interesting. It was really interesting because he even tricks a guy into snorting cyanide in his cocaine. That's true. He used cyanide, mixed it, stirred it up with the cocaine, and that's how he killed the guy. He snorted cocaine. I looked over at the instant coffee pack. I'm still thinking about snorting the coffee, guys. Coffee pack's sitting on my desk. Ha. They're so stupid for snorting that. I went back to reading. After a few pages, I looked back at the coffee. I wondered how well it worked. I mean, worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. I was sure it couldn't hurt you. It was only coffee after all. I sat down at the desk and opened up the pack of coffee. I mean, it's not like anyone would ever know I tried it. I took a clean, never used instructional playing card and crushed up the coffee crystals before snorting a line up my nose with a rolled up piece of paper. Stunk so bad, guys. Ow. That didn't feel good. Like a seasoned pro, I chased it up the nose with a little water. That helped calm the burn. Helped calm the burn, guys. Well, that was stupid. What was I thinking? Never doing that again. I went back to reading my book for a few pages. I know some of you guys might not like the author dashes, but I'm going to keep them for now. I looked back to the unsnorted coffee. Maybe I didn't do it right. Maybe it wasn't the coffee's fault. It was so terrible to snort. I went back to the desk, this time rolling my orange plastic cup over the coffee crystals, back and forth until the crystals turned into a dust. This time, the coffee went to the head, fast and smooth. Fast and smooth. I could feel the caffeine jolt me awake. It was different. Something new to try. But I decided I'd rather enjoy the taste of my coffee and the slow, leisure pace of the caffeine. Of the caffeine wake me up in the morning. So I only snorted it like 3 or 4 more times. Oh no! Computer! Okay, there we go. And that's true, guys. That is totally 100% true. Exactly what happened. You know what? You never think that you're going to do drugs. You never think you're going to do anything stupid like snort coffee. And then you're in a situation where you're bored and there's nothing to do. You're literally in a cell. With nothing to do except read, right? You can't go anywhere, you can't do anything. Yeah, you're bored. So what do? You do stupid things like this. You do stupid things like snort coffee. I decided I'd never tell the others about me sniffing coffee. It'd be too embarrassing. So is anyone else's poop super green? This was the normal stuff that we talked about. Jackson looked up from our card table. No. Really? I thought maybe it was from all the vegetables we eat. Gramps gave a nod. Sure, I've had a green tint to my crap before, but never in here. Normally on the farm eating veggies galore. Say what you will about old men in jail. They use some fun old-timey lingo that you just gotta remember. Good old man's story, said Jackson. He turned to me holding a box of colored pencils. What shade are we talking about here? I pulled out the pencil. Jackson gave a laugh. That's not good, Trevor. Never should your shit be fucking neon, no matter the color. We started going over the difference between diets and what I might be enjoying more than everyone else. One thing stood out. Wait a minute, said Jackson. How many juice packets do you drink a day? This was a big one, guys. I never ever thought about this. I shrugged. I don't like how this city water. City water. Like South Park? Shitty water, will you take your shitty water, please? How the city water tastes. So I trade for a lot of them. How many? 10 or 11 a day. I'm just not taking the time to write or to type well. So I trade for a lot of them. Never should. At least most of the things are like, okay, they're transposed a little bit, the lettering, but it's not actually going to be awful. 10 or 11 a day. Well, that's why, you know how much food dye is in our vitamin drink mix? But why green? Shouldn't it be orange and purple? Food dye separates out to original colors. It's a lot of green. I had no idea that food dye separate out to original colors before this moment. Hey guys. Interrupted the new kid, Frank. Gosh, I hated him. Frank was a skinny, fat, baby-faced white kid who mentioned several times that he hated Trump. For some reason, he found that fact important to share with others. Can I play? I looked at him with a little disdain. Little bit of disdain there. Disdain. I could tell already he was hoping to get on my... I could tell already he was going to get on my nerves. Not for free. You got any coffee or candy to gamble? He gave a look down at the ground. No. We turned back towards our game. But I'll have my diabetic snack in a couple hours. This is a part right here, guys. We take diabetic kids' food. Not to brag or anything, but that happened. In a couple hours. Water. A couple hours. I could put that up. Jackson and I gave each other a stare. The diabetic snack included not only a sandwich, but also a carton of milk. As someone who hadn't had any milk in many months, I've had traded several candy bars for a carton of milk. This kid didn't know what he had. He didn't. Milk was a big deal. and he had no idea. Okay, I said try not to sound too eager. Eager. Try not to sound too eager. We play first hand sets are a win along with double sets. Great, said Frankie with a smile on his face. Frankie sitting down to play at our table was a gift from God. Not only was he a gambling addict, but the worst spades player in history. Within 10 minutes, I had already won 4 games, and apparently the kid wasn't smart enough to quit. By the time we were locked down, he was down 4 milks and sandwiches. That is a lot, guys. That is a ton. You don't know it, but 4 milks and 4 sandwiches. You can go live as a host from 2412. Right with me. Violation, bullying, harassment. What? My live was just violated for bullying and harassment. Hang on. Let's take a look at our friendly old TikTok right here. Bullying and harassment. Look, that's awful. Let's read this out loud, shall we? We're stopping this and focusing on this right now. Your live access was suspended for violating our harassment and bullying policy. We do not allow content that threatens, degrading statements, or behavior intended to mock, embarrass, intimidate, or hurt an individual, or that encourages others to do so. Okay? Comments that sexually harass others regarding of users' intent. Threats to dox or hack in order to harass or blackmail another individual. Content that dehumanizes or mocks victims of violent tragedies. Other harassment or bullying behavior. What? TikTok, I am not bullying or harassing anyone. What are you doing? Threats, degrading statements or behavior. I'm appealing this. Submit appeal. We do not allow content that threats, degrading. Okay, for one thing, their sentence structure needs work here. We do not allow content that threats, degrading statements, or behavior. It should be threatens. What the heck did I post? I didn't post anything. This is the live stream, right? So I'm live streaming here on YouTube, and I'm live streaming on TikTok. And TikTok just said that my live stream is bullying and harassment. Appeal submitted. Okay. Appeal submitted. It will take up to 24 hours to review your appeal. My goodness. It's got to be flagged just because of the language I was using, right?
So I've been trying to figure out why.
Gosh dang it, TikTok. New from TikTok. Appeal submitted. Your live stream contains harassment and bullying violations and has been terminated. Click here to see details. Live access suspended until the 22nd. So I've been suspended for 72 hours for bullying and harassment. I'm submitting the appeal. Degrading? Yeah, I can't think. Have I said anything in my live stream right now? The R word, maybe? I mean, I suppose it could be the R word, but it wasn't directed at anyone, right? Like, just a word isn't by itself degrading. It's about how you use the word. That's what the English language is. That's why I feel very strongly that we shouldn't be taking words, right? We shouldn't be telling people that they can't use specific words. It's not the word that's the problem, it's how you use the word. It's what the word is being used for. Is it a degrading word? Well, is it used in a degrading way? That's the question. Or using Jew even though I'm a Jew. Yeah, exactly. Right? That kind of upsets me. I had a lot of people following me on TikTok too. I had like, I mean, not a ton, but I had like 60 people watching. TikTok is growing though. I'm getting closer to the 3,000 mark. My goal with TikTok right now is to hit 18,000 viewers or 18,000 followers. Because once you hit 18,000, then they allow you to screen capture, so I can live stream to TikTok like I do here. Right now, they have to just look at the screen, but it's not as clean as Streamlabs that I'm using right now. Oh man, that's upsetting. Okay, he was down for 4 milks and sandwiches. Where does this go? That goes right there. Okay. 4 milks and sandwiches, 10 juice packets, side of beans, 5 condiments, a lunch main, and a dinner main. The days ahead would be filled with plenty for everyone except Frankie. Gotta be more PC. Yeah, PC isn't really my style. As fun as surprising as that is, PC is not my go-to. Not that I'm mean or degrading towards anyone. I don't feel like limiting my language based on other people's feelings. Because I think that, again, it doesn't matter what the word is, it matters how you use the word. The easiest way is to simply put it in a clean chip bag and slide it under the door. The other option is to slide a chip bag with a hole cut on the end in between the door frame. Pour the milk slowly into the opening and receive it into a cup under the small hole on the other side of the door. It was good that he kept the trash, so when the COs got a tip from an angry snitch that he'd been giving away his diabetic snacks, he could deny it and show the empty trash as proof. Sorry about doing my head like that. I had to read sideways there for a second. The cold, fresh milk made that day truly memorable. It's amazing what small things you miss after months of deprivation. If milk was this good, I can only imagine how orgasmic, that's the word. How orgasmic a pizza might be. A shame I wouldn't find out for over another year. Dun dun dun. So that right there, that's the way to end a chapter. You end it with, whoa, wait, another year? You're not going to do it for another, you're not going to know that for another year? It's like all of a sudden we're showing the reader, whoa, hang on. That's crazy. Let's embolden and go to 6-point font. Chapter number 5. Correction staff. Dun, 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 dun. Perpetuating the use of a degrading word term in literature that will then be perpetuated in writing for years could be what someone had an issue with. So, yes, I could see that. I could totally see that, and I understand it. That's not my personal viewpoint of what a word is. So, I look at the N-word, for example, right? That word was used in a degrading way for such a long period of time. But it's been taken back really well. And it's the way that the word is now used, for the most part, is in a good sense. It is in a normal, non-degrading sense now. And you look at that through everything, through the way it's used in writing, in musical lyrics, in raps, and just out on the street now. People use the N-word and they don't mean, they don't mean it in a degrading way. Now, I'm not going to use it right here because I'm putting this on YouTube and YouTube doesn't like it. But I look at that word and I think about how well they were able to reclaim that word and use it in a way that is so much better now. So yeah, I would definitely, I like the idea of reclaiming words. I think the English language is so interesting, and one of the reasons it's interesting is that we have so many different words to use, and such fun separate ways that we can use the same word. I definitely think that it's worth our time to use words that others consider bad, and use them in a proper way. Use them in a way that use them in a way that is not going to hurt anyone's feelings. Use them in a way that is just okay, but see, that's not true. White people use it all the time, right? And it's totally acceptable. So I know a lot of people don't agree with that it's not acceptable, but when hanging out, so jail is a perfect example, right? White people use the word all the time in fun, playful ways, in normal situations, in normal language, with black people, with African Americans, and it's totally fine. It's normal, and they accept it and they're okay with it. It's how you use it. It's what you say. Eminem, Joe Rogan, just a few examples of people who've used that word in a way that I think is fine and acceptable. So I like the idea of us as a society reclaiming words and making it okay for anyone to use the word as long as it's used in the correct manner. Okay, be your own chef. Ready, guys? This is the fun part. We're done writing it, typing it out, and now we get to actually look at it here on the screen, read through it, and do some fun editing with it. Da 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 da. Dun da 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 da. So, one thing everyone in jail can agree on is that the food sucks. The good news is, every 2 months your taste buds will. The good news is, after 2 months, your taste buds will forget how great a steak, a sandwich, or even that fast food burger is, and suddenly the jail food will go from terrible to below average. I'm sorry to say, you never really enjoy most of the meals. This is the jail menu for the facility I stayed at. Insert menu. Bam. Note that the menu is bound to change and never for the better. That's an unfortunate truth. When I first arrived, we got cinnamon rolls every weekend. Then one horrid day, without warning, they stopped giving us cinnamon rolls. And see that corn dog? Is corn dog one word? It is. Stop eating cinnamon rolls. And seeing that corn dog on the menu, we used to get 2. But one corn dog or 2, it's never quite enough food. It's that odd amount of food where you might not be hungry anymore, but you aren't full either. I'm going to leave it. Now, at face value, this menu might not look terrible. You might even be willing to eat some of these meals. Allow me to illuminate the truth behind the words. While the turkey may be turkey, every other type of meat is soy-based, which may be why everyone who comes in at first has a 2-week adjustment period where they decimate the toilet. Don't worry, after your stomach is done suffering, it gets a lot easier to shit in front of your cellie. Rule of thumb. That's another thing that some people don't like saying, but that is what I'm going to say. Rule of thumb, because everyone knows what you mean by rule of thumb, right? Rule of thumb. There will always be something, if not everything, wrong with the meal. It wouldn't be a jail meal if the bread wasn't rock hard, the vegetables overcooked, the main dish cold, and the dessert dry. The cookies are always oatmeal or sugar. The sugar cookies have an odd habit of being uncooked on the inside and stale on the outside, as if they were removed from the oven too soon and then left out for a day before serving. Oh, and the pudding will always be chunky. Some of the menu items try to hide behind fancy names like chicken a la king, but it's really just chicken pasta. There is always too much pasta, not enough soy chicken, if hardly any. There's always too much pasta, not enough soy chicken. If any. Let's take hardly out of there. There's always too much pasta, not enough soy chicken, if any. Most of the meals are carb heavy, filled with pastas, rice, and potatoes. I never felt like I got my daily value of protein or fiber in my diet. All throughout my time in jail, I never felt like I got my daily value of protein or fiber in my diet. Of the cakes, I will say, the chocolate cake with vanilla icing was pretty good. But it was still dry. So I'd only eat the top of it. Then flush the bottom half down the toilet or save it for when I got hungry later. But it was still dry, so I'd only eat the top of it, then flush the bottom half down the toilet, or save it for when I got hungry later. You always flush or give away extra food you aren't going to eat. If people see that someone's wasting food without offering it, they're going to get a talking to. If people see that someone's wasting food without talking it, They're going to get a talking to. There's only so much food available, and people get hungry. Some meals come with condiments like ketchup, mustard, and sometimes mayo. These condiments can make or break a meal and are highly sought after. If you receive a packet of barbecue, those things are worth their weight in gold. If you trade one away, you should be getting a coffee or half a candy bar. If you'd prefer hard-boiled eggs, rubber cheese, fish patties, beans, and plain white rice, kosher may be the meal for you. May be the meal plan for you. Let's take out plan. Kosher may be the meal for you. I always made friends with the people on kosher and found out what they like to trade for. I always made friends with the people on kosher and found out what they like to trade. Kosher got sugar, salt, pepper, and butter packets, helping make any meal edible. And I needed to trade them for it. All you had to do to become kosher is say you're Jewish or Muslim. When you sign up, for it, you promise you won't trade any of it away or eat any non-kosher food. If you do, they'll take you off kosher. But in all my time there, that only happened to one person. Truth is, most COs don't care and have better things to do than watch the cameras for people passing food. Only people who get in trouble were dumbasses who tried passing food right in front of the CO. It's getting close to lunchtime, and I'm getting my chip bags ready for food delivery. Leprechaun is the new house mouse with Luke. They always make sure to pass my stuff first, which is great because it means I have to have my food ready to go. Bag preparation is important for both food storage and travel. You don't want used bags to mold and get you sick, and no one likes receiving a gross bag. To prep my bags, I clean them out with hot water. Let's put it in the past tense, because I'm not in jail right now. Because I cleaned them out with hot water, making sure no crumbs remained at the bottom. I then placed the chip bags face down on the floor to dry before putting it under my mattress to sleep on, getting the bag airtight flat. Most of the chip bags I've been given from those with an abundance. Most of the chip bags I'd been given from those with an abundance. We spread the bags out between cells, so if COs searched a group, all the bags weren't lost at once. And that was a big thing, because our bags were taken away all the time during searches. And it's another one of those things like, why? Why can't we keep an empty chip bag? It's ridiculous. As the COs come in with the trays, they let the house mouses out to assist with the food distribution. First thing the house mouses do is walk half the trays of food up. Thanks so much for coming out and talking. SBS. South British Social. Alright. As the COs come in with the trays, they let the house mouses out to assist with the food distribution. First thing the house mouses do is walk half the trays of food up the stairs to the second tier of cells. Tier, not tier. Tier. First thing the house mouses do is walk First thing the house mouses, as the COs came In with the trays, they let the house mouses out to assist with food distribution. House mouses did was walk half the trays of food up the stairs to the second tier of cells. Every once in a while, a house mouse would trip and spill a bunch of food. This was met with laughs and applause. I, however, found waiting for more trays to be brought into the pod an extreme annoyance. Just because it takes longer to get the food doesn't mean they'll give you more time to eat your meal. Most meals were delivered at the 15-minute mark and picked up at the 35. As soon as my tray was passed to me through the little delivery slit in the cell door, I waited for the CO to leave and start placing food in chip bags. I placed 3 chip bags under the door for the house mouses to deliver. I sent a rock-hard roll. I don't understand why we can't just have 2 slices of store-bought bread. Seems like it'd be cheaper. Be cheaper too. I assume it'd be cheaper while tasting better. While tasting better. While tasting better, I assume it'd be cheaper too. To Tom, in exchange for 4 juice packets. The vitamin juice mixes were often the best part of the meals. They came in many flavors, but we got mostly grape. But we got mostly grape. But we received mostly grape. Mostly grape. 2 of the packets I just got went to a kosher kid for butter and pepper, which helped make the pasta tolerable. The next bag was filled with canned corn. It went to Jackson for his dessert. He's on a diet. The last bag had leftover greens. I decided I didn't want. It went to Gramps. It went to Gramps to be nice. He's old as dirt, so... He was old as dirt, so I fed him to feel good. I received a main pasta dish from Luke. He sent me his extra food he didn't want on weekends. Since he got 2 trays on weekends as house mouse rewards, he rarely finished all his food. I also got dessert from Tom. I won from him in a game of spades. I also got dessert from Tom. I'd won from him in a game of spades. The place filled with shouts for trades. I got a roll for corn. I got a roll for corn. I got a main for dessert. I got dessert for bread and corn. I hear a shout, "I got coffee for dessert." I threw myself I threw myself at I threw myself at the door and shouted, "Deal, 26 house. Sending over dessert." I had an extra dessert anyway, and I was always looking for coffee. Soon, I was drinking my coffee and eating dessert too. Whew. Mm. My head was getting itchy, guys. My head was getting itchy. Oh, so much better with some water in me. House mouses were now enjoying their own food and telling everyone who still had to move something to wait until they were done. It's always better to get on the house mouse's radar. It's always better to get on the house mouse's radar to get your trades pushed through first. No one wants cold food, especially me, who needs the butter to melt on top of the pasta. On top of the pasta. I laid back, content after a good meal. The extra food goes a long way. The extra food went a long way. I had a roll, 4 meatballs, a ketchup pack, and 2 slices of cheese. I planned to make myself a meatball sandwich right before bed. I found that if I had a full stomach before shut-eye, I slept a lot better. Shut-eye, I slept a lot better. Just as I was opening up my book, there was a knock at my door. The new homeless druggie was standing at my door. You could tell he was a homeless druggie from the way he looked. You could tell he was a homeless druggie from the way he looked. I was a little annoyed that he was looking through the window at me and not waiting for me to come to the door. But I let it slide since he was new. "You got any bread?" he asked. I had an extra roll, so I decided to be nice. "Sure." And I flattened it down before sliding it out the door. "Good looking out, man." That must be druggy for thank you. I went back to my book feeling like I'd just helped feed. I went back to my book feeling like I just helped feed the homeless, which felt okay. Next day he came by again. "Hey, man." "Hey," I said with a nod, turning from my desk. How you doing?" I gave a roll of my eyes. What a stupid question to ask someone in Max. "Just having fun," I answered, as always with a touch of sarcasm. Always with I answered as always with my words soaked in sarcasm. That's cool, that's cool. Hey, you got any bread? No. Ah, okay. Thanks anyways, brother. Thanks anyways, brother. Brother. Keep strong. And with that, he walked off. I watched him walk away thinking I watched him walk away thinking he was one of the most annoying people I'd ever met. If he really wanted bread, he could at least offer me something for it. Like most homeless, this one turned out to be a professional beggar. Every day, like a mangy stray remembering who had thrown it a scrap, he came around my door asking for bread, and every day he came around my door asking for bread. And every day I gave him a 1 or 2 word response dripping with annoyance. After a week, it became clear he was too stupid to realize that he was too annoying for me to give more bread to. I talked with Jackson and came up with a plan. The next day, when homeless druggie came by asking for bread, I told him to go downstairs and ask Tenhouse who owed me bread. Why is it giving me the wheel? The spinning wheel. Alright, give it a second. There we go. That wheel does scare me though, so let's save it. There we go. Save our work. Tenhouse then sent him back upstairs to Jackson. Jackson sent him 13, who then sent him to Tom, who sent him to 15 House, who finally sent him back to me. Tenhouse then sent him back upstairs to Jackson. Jackson sent him to 13. Jackson sent him to 13, who then sent him to Tom, who then sent him to Tom, who sent him to 15 House, who finally sent him back to me. Having spent almost 20 minutes talking to people and running up and down the stairs, he appeared back at my door, out of breath. When he looked in my house, he found me happily chomping on a roll with 3 more rolls sitting on my desk, awaiting consumption. I thought you said you didn't have any bread, he said with longing in his eyes. No, I said I don't have any bread for you. This is my bread, for me to eat. Oh, okay. The words came out of his mouth slowly, like I'd just buried his dog alive. A twinge of guilt slivered into me while he meandered away, head hanging low. I couldn't imagine a little roll of stale bread meaning so much to me. That guilt is probably why I listened to him when he came practically running to my door the next day. Hey man, look here, he said as he slid a receipt for $426.12 under my door. They sent my last paycheck to jail, so now I can order commissary. I always get the bread. Yeah, I know you do, Sound Dragon. I know you always get the bread. Savannah's in here too. She gets bread too. Cool, I replied with my best smile. Since I'm going to be ordering now, I was wondering if you'd front a brother 2 candy bars. Feeling his homeless beggar eyes, a little leftover guilt about the bread, and impressed that he got a paycheck, even for so little, I decided to front him 2 candy bars. 2 candy bars, people. He showed me a receipt, so I felt secure in getting my 2 candy bars back. Besides, he was a harmless, homeless druggie. I could trust him to pay me back. I hope you guys can read the sarcasm in that one, right? 2 days later, he came running and ranting. They screwed me! They screwed me right in the ass, and they tied my ass hairs together. While they did it. Unable to avoid smiling a little at that last part, I asked him, "Who raped you?" He slid another piece of paper to me, this one a medical bill, showing that they took all his money, and he still owed the jail over $3,000 in medical expenses. Holy shit, I said. Yeah, I'm sorry, brother. Woo! Saw me live. Look at that. Just call me Mr. Worldwide. Yeah. Why does he keep calling me brother? We're both white. If you have money on your books, they can take it for medical, child support, etc. It's fair game. When they do, they leave $5 for you, but he'd already transferred money from his commissary to his phone. While money can go from your books to your phone, it can't go from your phone to your books. Many a horror story is told in jail of money stuck on someone's phone account because they didn't know. Because they didn't know how funds traveled in jail. Well, I was sympathetic and told him he could pay me back with a dozen cookies. He thanked me again and left. I wasn't all that upset. It's less than $2. I mean, that's less than the change in my car. It's amazing how much so little money seems while incarcerated. I ate my cookies, and he stopped asking me for food. A few days later, I was talking about it with Jackson during an intense game of spades. I don't understand why all medical expenses... I don't understand why all the medical expenses someone gets while in jail have to be paid out of pocket. I have health insurance. Why can't they bill my insurance? He gave a shrug. You mean, why doesn't it work the way it does if you went to a clinic, normal doctor, or hospital? I nodded. Yeah, it seems wrong. It is wrong, but no one cares. I raked up the cards as I finished winning spades, as I always did. Well, I'm glad I'm not Mr. Brad Beggar. I can't imagine racking up over $3,000 in medical bills here. Well, yeah, you'd owe a ton too if you had AIDS. Well, yeah, you'd owe a ton too if you had AIDS. I looked up at him. Excuse me? Tom sat down at that point. You guys talking about HIV? I looked at Tom. HIV? That's what everyone calls him, on account of the AIDS. Jackson continued the thought. You didn't know? I was more than a little startled. No! How do you guys know? Everyone knows, Tom said with a laugh. Why do you think everyone calls him HIV? Jackson added, or how he's so unnaturally skinny. I just thought he was another druggie, I said. Well, he is, said Jackson, but his medical papers and his charges tell everyone he has AIDS. Well, he is. How do you think he got AIDS? Well, he is. How do you think he got HIV? But his medical papers... His medical papers and his charges tell everyone he has AIDS. AIDS! His charges... This was a lot for me to process. Yep, said Jackson. Gotta be careful around HIV. Yeah, said Tom. I sure wouldn't touch anything coming out of his house. I hadn't even thought of that. I ate cookies that came out of his house. That HIV had touched... I hadn't thought of that. I ate cookies that came out of his house. HIV had touched his AIDS-covered hands all over the cookies I was eating. That night, I looked at myself shirtless in the mirror, like I did every night. Did I look a little skinnier, like my body was slowly eating itself from the inside? How could I be positive if I was HIV positive? Good news is, after all that time, I'm 97.2% sure I'm not HIV positive. However, I'm not HIV positive. Lesson learned. From then on, I only traded and accepted food from good, clean individuals who I trusted not to do anything even remotely disgusting or shady to the sustenance. As word spread, poor HIV couldn't find a soul to trade with him. Couldn't find a soul to trade with. He just floated. He just floated from cell to cell during his time out, always going to bed disappointed and hungry. Always going to bed disappointed and hungry. That's him. Tap, tap, tap. Once again, loud on my door, waking me up at the unholy hour of 3:15 a.m. I roll over, half awake, but also half excited because tonight I'm being woken up for commissary delivery. Unlike half the people in Max, I have family who love me, which means I received money regularly on my books to make life incarcerated more bearable. Make books to make my detained life more bearable. Which means I received money regularly on my books to make my detained life more bearable. The other half of the people could only receive a few dollars at a time. Or else medical or child support would take it. Unfortunately, commissary is very limited where I did my time, filled with nothing but expensive small bags of chips and other types of junk food. Insert commissary form. And a few months later, it got even worse. Insert new commissary form. The biggest loss was the duplex cookies, because it was the loss of not only the best bang for your buck in terms of food to penny ratio, but because of the loss of the plastic trays that came in that everyone used to help hold and organize their things. Soon these plastic trays would become a thing of the past, leaving people's pencils, erasers, and juice packets doomed to lay in unorganized piles of people's cell desks. Soon these plastic trays would become a thing of the past, leaving people's pencils, erasers, and juice packets doomed to lay in unorganized piles. The other great loss was the limiting of deodorant choices. Old Spice is just so much better than boring old Speed Stick. I wonder if the jail realizes how terrible the commissary options are. Or if they care. Maybe if they realized how much I'd have paid for just a little peanut butter and jelly, or maybe a roll of salami, some real food we could enjoy or add to help our meals go down. A few pieces of cut-up sausage would make all their soupy, meat-deprived stews enjoyable. Make all their soupy, meat-deprived stews enjoyable. A few pieces of cut up sausage would make all their soupy, meat deprived stews enjoyable. Even just a little cheese or hot sauce would have been worth a murder or two, allegedly. Note, any inmate feels safe talking about all kinds of heinous. Oh my gosh, I am so... I need some water. Let's go. Horrific. Horrific. All right. Putting the phone down, drinking a little water. And we're back on. Back on, people. Standing up for just a minute. Crack in the back. Oh, that feels good. Okay, everything is readjusted. Sitting back down. We have our light that we can now turn off, because we're good on that front. Water is good. Paper is good. I think we're ready to keep going, guys. No, even just a little cheese or hot sauce would have been worth a murder or two, allegedly. Note, any inmate feels safe talking about all kinds of horrific criminal acts while incarcerated, as long as they use the word allegedly in the sentence. Well, with only these junk food options, I always ordered the max number of P-Nuddles. P-Nuddles. Let's make sure I'm spelling that right. I am. P-Nuddles. That's right. P-Nuddles and Kit Kats, with maybe a few Butterfingers and bags of chips thrown in. P-Nuddles are something I'd never tried before. They're butter toffee covered peanuts, and I was quickly hooked. I'm sure the taste of butter toffee will always remind me of my time incarcerated. Will always taste like. That's a much stronger sentence. I'm sure the taste of butter toffee will always taste Is that right? As I checked the order before signing the receipt, I noticed a discrepancy and turned to the CO dropping off the commissary. I didn't order these 10 sugars, or these 10 noodles on here that I can't even have. You can't have noodles or a radio in Max. I asked the CEO once why that is, and he responded, because you don't deserve it. This time the CEO stared at me with tired expression on his face. What you received doesn't match the receipt? It does, but the receipt won't match the order form. I didn't order this. Then you'll have to contact the delivery company about this. But right now, if the receipt matches what you've received, you need to accept and sign it. I grudgingly signed and returned it to him. Before he left, he said, I'm sure they'll make it right. He paused as if thinking about what he just said. Actually, I don't think they care. No one here has a choice but to order from them. And he was right. I'd finally have... And he was right. I'd have to kite the jail's accounting to get a refund. It'd take weeks, and it'd come without warning, causing my indigent order to cancel and my 3 free letters to be returned for mail service. You'd think they'd at least inform you that your refund was on its way. I paid close attention to the CEO as he left. Watching what was delivered to each house. You'll notice on the commissary order form that most sections have a 10-item cap, another limitation that I never got a good answer for. Every CO made it clear when asked why something is the way it is that they don't know and that they just work here. To get around the 10-item cap, I looked for people who ordered a lot but didn't touch certain sections. I like pea noodles. I liked pea noodles, but didn't touch the cookie section. That guy loved cookies, but didn't order from the snacks. But didn't order snacks. Thus, a natural commissary order agreement was reached. Inmates who order a lot of commissary are also great to trade with. They usually think less of their normal meals and are more willing to part with items. They also might run low and need indigent items or require emergency mailing accessories. An envelope and postage stamp can be worth a lot of candy bars to that fellow who forgot about Mother's Day. As the COs left the pod, I laid on my bunk and ripped open a newly delivered Kit Kat. There's a reason it's called comfort food. I devoured it and felt better before making love. And felt better immediately. I made love before falling asleep for the 2 hours before breakfast. I made love. It's a really nice way of saying I jerked off. I made love before I made love before falling into a content sleep for the 2 hours before breakfast. In Max, commissary goes a long ways to staying sane. In my own hellish Groundhog Day, I once again sat at the same table playing spades with Jackson and watching the seventh Fast and Furious film for the eighth time. It's amazing how few things are enjoyable to watch when you only get 3 channels that aren't local or in Spanish. Tom sat down just as I finished kicking Jackson's ass. With 3 of us at the table, I started dealing rummy. Tom gave a loud, attention-grabbing sigh. Boy, I'm just craving something salty right now. I glanced at Jackson. He returned my look with a furrowed brow of his own. Tom's not too subtle hint was not the first, and our annoyance was increasing. Tom was one of those entitled kids whose mom always spoiled him, and he hadn't learned that the rest of the world didn't owe him anything. For some reason, a lot of drug addicts seem to have this mentality. But Jackson and I weren't going to give him our precious salt packets for free, so we kept quiet. Our precious salt packets for free. But Jackson and I weren't going to give him our precious salt packets for free, so we kept quiet. Jackson Selly joined us as we switched back to spades, playing for that night's dessert. In the second hand, Jackson's face got bigger and bigger as he kept winning books. In the second hand, Jackson's face got bigger and bigger as he kept winning books, until he realized I was feeding him on purpose. Soon the game of spades ended with him the victor, and my opponents. Soon the game of spades ended with me the victor, and my opponents double set losers. If you want to win a lot of stuff while incarcerated, get good at spades. Everyone plays, and there's always some kind of money on the table. Jackson was shooting daggers at his quick loss. Hey, Trevor, you got any wine? No. That's too bad, because I like to be wined and dined before I get fucked. Everyone gave a good-hearted laugh, knowing Jackson wasn't really that upset over losing a dessert. Complaining, arguing, or making fun of another one of the guys was all about entertainment. Everyone took it in good sport most of the time. I gave a laugh. You wish, if I did fuck you, it'd be up the ass with twisted razor wire. This was followed with laughter between a few ow and damn Trevor. As we started dealing out the cards again, Tom gave another sigh. Jackson rolled his eyes before the words even escaped Tom's mouth. Man, I could really go for some peanuts right now. Without missing a beat, I said, Boy, a nice sirloin steak would sure hit the spot. Tom looked indignant at me with just a touch of shock. Hey! I stared right back. What? I thought we were all saying something we wanted but wouldn't get. You're nothing but an asshole, Trevor. And with that, he went into the tablet room. You're nothing but an asshole, 400. And with that, he went into the tablet room. I turned back to the others. Little does he know, there's a lot more to me than just my asshole. Jackson gave a chuckle. Jackson gave a chuckle before adding, I'm really getting tired of that kid. We agreed before being mesmerized as food porn came on the TV. There was nothing like a fast food commercial to remind us how shitty the food was, or the unthinkable things we'd do for a Klondike bar. I'm switching it back. Shoot, the food was, or the unthinkable things we'd do for a Klondike bar. There was nothing like fast food commercial to remind us how shitty the food was, or the unthinkable things we'd do for a Klondike bar. Comma! Let's put a comma in there. Let's put a comma in there. Let's put a comma. Let's put a comma. Let's put a comma in there. Oh, man. The next day, I saw Tom going door to door talking to people. I turned to Gramps, who happened to be Tom's current cellie. What's Tom up to? Oh, he's looking for someone to give him some peanuts. I gave a slight laugh. Good luck. He never has enough to trade. But to my surprise, I watched him get not only peanuts, but 2 hot cocoa packets and a Butterfingers. After Tom left, happy as a clam eating his peanuts. After Tom left, happy as a clam eating his peanuts, I went over to the same door and asked what Tom had traded. The response I got back was that Tom had offered 1 for 2 back. Apparently, Tom's mom was putting money on his books. I went back to Gramps and asked him about it. Well, he hasn't told me about it, but he hasn't told me. Well, he hasn't told me about it, but he'd better hurry. He'd better hurry. He's only got 1 more commissary order to pay everyone back. I don't know much about it. But he'd better hurry. He's only got 1 more commissary order to pay everyone back. What do you mean? Well, he's leaving for prison next week. He had told the rest of us he'd be leaving in a month. It was obvious to me that Tom had lied and now planned to rack up debt without any intention of paying people back. I quickly spread the word. I hated the idea of people being taken advantage of with such blatant lying and stealing. It just reminded me again not to trust anyone on their word and to always wait for their end of the trade before giving mine. And to always wait for end of the trade before giving mine. As the house that Tom had screwed over came out, the entire group descended upon Tom's door. Their time out was spent yelling threats and vile curses through the door aimed at both Tom and his family. Just when I thought it was over, there'd be an earth-shattering bang, bang, as someone kicked his door, and it started all over again. Out of respect for Gramps, his cellie Gramps, they did eventually tone it down, and Tom offered to give them a handful of desserts and sandwiches. They accepted begrudgingly. Tom's lucky he had a door between him and them. And his would-be murderers. Tom's lucky he had a door between him and his would-be murderers. Although if he knew they could get to him, he may have never taken the chance. Although, if he knew they could get to him, he'd never. Although, if he knew they could get to him, he'd never have taken the chance. No one was very friendly to Tom after that. We took to mostly ignoring him and calling him a pizza-faced pterodactyl. A pizza-faced pterodactyl, which was the perfect description for him. A long-ass nose and fingers on a body that's 20 pounds too skinny. Long-ass nose and fingers on a body that was 20 pounds too skinny, covered in volcanic zits. Jackson and I hated Tom for making trades he couldn't keep. We didn't want, nor did we think, Tom was worth doing anything we could be sent to the hole for. We didn't want, nor did we think Tom. We didn't think Tom was worth doing anything that we could be sent to the hole for. We didn't think Tom was worth doing anything that we could be sent to the hole for. So we decided to punish him. In the ways we could get away with. So we decided to punish him in ways we wouldn't get in trouble for. Ways we couldn't get in trouble for. Since he was no longer allowed to play cards with us, he took to spending most of his time alone in the tablet room listening to music. To interrupt his music time, Jackson started running to the tablet room first. He'd then hog it until his cellie arrived to use the tablet. Together they ate most of our time out, leaving Tom to sit alone watching whatever I'd chosen to be on TV or walk circles in the concrete yard. Often he opted to just remain in his house, spending at one point over 90 over 96 at one point spending at one point over 96 hours in his cell. Gramps told me he often cried, and when we spoke of him, he'd reply under his breath. Gramps told me he often cried, and when we spoke to him, he'd reply. And when we yelled insults his way, Gramps told me he often cried. And when we yelled insults his way, he'd reply under his breath, "I'm not a pizza-faced pterodactyl." I convinced Gramps to flush the toilet in the middle of the night to wake him up and ensure little to no restful sleep. I had no sympathy for Tom. He was an adult and had brought this on himself. Tom got a little revenge, though. The day before he left for prison, he took a giant shit in the shower, right before we got locked up for the day, leaving the house mouses to deal with it. Luke was especially angry and let Tom know what he thought of his mother, who'd allow her son to turn into such a gutless fucking turd burger pussy-ass piece of shit on a saltine. Tom, once again, always the door warrior, was safe in his house from all forms of brutally violent retribution that would have taken place. The next morning, Tom was taken to prison without a single friend wishing him luck. 2 weeks later, Luke also left for prison, with many promises of finding Tom and making him pay for forcing the house mouses to clean up his deuce. I'd love to know if Luke ever got his revenge. I like to think he did in a glorious manner. After Luke left, I was asked to be house mouse. I like the idea of extra food, but the thought of cleaning up shit and other men's children off the bathroom floor without even gloves was too much. It's amazing to think that the entire ordeal with Tom was all over a small bag of peanuts, but that's maximum. Somewhere between 2 and 6 month mark of being incarcerated, I just started trying anything and everything to make the food enjoyable. A few of my favorites were insert spice it up writing meal prep and food ideas. Woohoo! Oh, stretch out. Oatmeal with pink lemonade, orange juice packets, and 2 sugars almost taste like Fruity Pebbles. It's a lie that we tell ourselves. Because it doesn't. It doesn't taste like Fruity Pebbles. There's no way. But we trick ourselves into thinking that it tastes like Fruity Pebbles. Why do we do that? Well, the answer is we do it because we want some semblance of normalcy. We want it to be normal. We want to be normal. And so that's what we do. We lie to ourselves and we say, well, it's kind of like that. But it's not. It doesn't taste anything like that. Not even a little bit. A shame we don't have a microwave. All our food could be better in 100 different ways. Although the lack of heat does little to stifle the popularity of coffee. With only so many drugs available, caffeine is a favorite substitute. At 30 cents a pop, they're a relatively cheap commissary. All our foods could be better in 100 different ways. Caffeine is a favorite substitute. At 30 cents a pop, they're a relatively cheap commissary item, and with a limit of 30, there's always someone looking to trade for more. If at first you don't get the deal you want, tell them to come back when they change their mind. After a little time without the caffeine kick, the addicts return with their tail between their legs, giving in to all the Jews' demands. All the Jews' demands. Always be the Jew, and you'll be a jailhouse, and you'll be jailhouse rich too. You'd be shocked at what addicts would agree to. I'll admit, even I enjoyed the lukewarm sink water coffee. I'll admit, even I enjoyed the lukewarm sink water coffee I mixed with my hair comb. As I sipped my drink, I'd try to forget. As I sipped my drink, I tried to forget that it's a crappy 4-ounce Taster's Choice instant pack. Put 2 of them together. Taster's Choice instant pack. Put 2 of them together, add 2 sugars and a lukewarm cocoa. You almost have something worth drinking. Put 2 of them together, add 2 sugars and half a lukewarm cocoa, you almost have something worth drinking. Walking by a couple houses after talking with Leprechaun, I stopped and retraced a few steps. Yep, I saw what I'd seen. Yep, I saw what I'd seen. Two men were at the desk using playing cards to chop up and snort something. It was a dark brown, which made me think it may be heroin at first, but they wouldn't be snorting that. Then I saw the coffee wrappers on the desk. No way, I blurted. The big guy turned towards me, exposing a nose and mustache covered in brown coffee crystals. He looked rather silly, his now brown dusty facial hair moving up and down as he spoke in an unnatural, nasally voice. Nasally voice. Nasally. Yeah, I'm saying it right. Nasally voice. I didn't know how to spell that, and I'm a little embarrassed. But that's the way the wind blows. In an unnaturally nasally voice. Don't knock it till you try it. Does it even work? Oh yeah, bro. Caffeine goes straight to the brain. Sure beats drinking the stuff. A escaped my lips as I walked away. Those dumb druggies are so lost without their fix, they'll stoop to snorting coffee. They looked so stupid with all that brown dust over their noses. Just drink it like a normal person. Drugs really do make some people retarded. As our time ended, I went back to my house and opened a good book. Most of the books in jail are legal thrillers or murder mysteries. Currently, I was reading about the hired killer. I was reading about a hired killer who used guns, poison, and cyanide spray. It was really interesting. He even tricked a guy. It was really interesting. He tricked a guy into snorting cyanide in his cocaine. He snorted cocaine. I looked over at the instant coffee pack sitting on my desk. Ha! They're so stupid for snorting that. I went back to reading. After a few pages, I looked back at the coffee. I wondered how well it worked. I mean, worst case scenario, I was sure it couldn't hurt me. I mean, worst case scenario, I was sure it couldn't hurt me. It was only coffee after all. I mean, what was the worst case scenario? What was the worst case scenario? I was sure it couldn't hurt me. It was only coffee after all. I sat down at the desk and opened up the pack of coffee. I mean, it's not like anyone would ever find out I'd tried it. I took a clean, never used instructional playing card and crushed up the coffee crystals before snorting a line up my nose with a rolled up piece of paper. Ow, that didn't feel good. Like a seasoned pro, I chased it up the nose with a little water that helped calm the burn. Well, that was stupid. What was I thinking? Never doing that again. I went back to reading my book for a few pages. I looked back at the unsnorted coffee. Maybe I didn't do it right. Maybe it wasn't the coffee's fault. It was so terrible to snort. I went back to the desk, this time rolling my orange plastic cup over the coffee crystals, back and forth until the crystals turned into into dust. Till the crystals turned into dust. This time the coffee went into the head, fast and smooth. I could feel the caffeine jolt. I could feel the caffeine jolt me awake. It was different, something new to try. But I decided I'd rather enjoy the taste of my coffee. And the slow leisure pace of the caffeine waking me up in the morning. So I only snorted it like 3 or 4 more times. I decided I'd never tell others about me sniffing coffee. It'd be too embarrassing. So is anyone else's poop super green? Jackson looked up from our card table. No. That's how he said it. No. Really? I thought maybe it was from all the vegetables we eat. Gramps gave a nod. Sure, I've had a green tint to my crap before, but never in here, normally on the farm eating veggies galore. Good old man story. Good story, old man. Good old man story, said Jackson. He turned to me, holding a box of colored pencils. What shade are we talking about here? I pulled out the pencil. Jackson gave a laugh. That's not good, Trevor. Never should your shit be fucking neon, no matter the color. We started going over the difference between diets and what I might be enjoying more than everyone else. One thing stood out. Wait a minute, said Jackson. How many juice packets do you drink a day? I shrugged. I didn't like how this city water tastes. I don't like how the city water tastes. So I trade for a lot of them. How many? 10 or 11 a day. Well, that's why. You know how much food dye is in our vitamin drink mix? But why green? Shouldn't it be orange and purple? Food dye separates out to its original colors. It's a lot of green. Hey guys, interrupted the new kid Frank. He was a skinny, fat, baby-faced white kid who mentioned several times that he hated Trump. For some reason, he found that fact important to share with others. Can I play? I looked at him with a little disdain. I could tell already he was going to get on my nerves. Not for free. You got any coffee or candy to gamble? He gave a look down at the ground. No. We turned back towards our game. But I'll have my diabetic snack in a couple hours. I could put that up. Jackson and I gave each other a stare. The diabetic snack included not only a sandwich, but also a carton of milk. As someone who hadn't had milk in many months, I'd have traded several candy bars for a carton of milk. This kid didn't know what he had. Okay, I said, trying not to sound too eager. We play first-hand sets or a win along with double sets. Great, said Frankie with a smile on his face. Frankie sitting down to play at our table was a gift from God. Not only was he a gambling addict. Am I spelling gambling wrong? Gambling. There we go. Oh, editing is fun in the sun. Not only was he a gambling addict, but the worst spades player in history. Within 10 minutes, I'd already won 4 games, and apparently the kid wasn't smart enough to quit. By the time we were locked down, he was down 4 milks and sandwiches, 10 juice packets, a side of beans, 5 condiments, a lunch main, and a dinner main. The days ahead would be filled with plenty for everyone except Frankie. I had to talk him through passing the milk to me. The easiest way is to simply put it in a clean chip bag and slide it under the door. The other option is to slide a chip bag with a hole cut on the side, on the end, in between the door frame. Pour the milk slowly into the opening and receive it into a cup under the small hole on the other side of the door. It was good that he kept the trash, so when the CEOs got a tip from an angry snitch that he'd been giving away his diabetic snacks, he could deny it and show the empty trash as proof. The cold, fresh milk made that day truly memorable. It's amazing what small things you miss after months of deprivation. If milk was this good, I could only imagine how orgasmic a pizza might be. A shame I wouldn't find out for over a year. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you end a chapter. With a great big, what? Over a year? That's crazy. That's how you do it. Alright. So, we are gonna start going on chapter 5. Chapter 5 is all about correctional staff. The actual staff, what they do, the good staff members, the bad staff members, everything from correctional staff to nurses. So, let's give it a go, shall we? Gonna start typing. Now again, when I start typing like this, it's just quick, getting it down on paper, not too much of a, not doing a lot of editing right here. We'll go back and actually edit it all after we put it down. Rumor wreck. One of the most annoying phrases uttered on an hourly basis in Max. Sometimes 4 or 5 times an hour. When the group that's out hears the rumor wreck shout, they move to get locked in their cells or rec yard. This shout happens for many reasons. Many reasons. For many reasons. Most of them involve moving an inmate. Anytime someone has court, a professional visit, a mental health visit, mental health evals happen all the time. Mental health visits, mental health in general is just happens a lot. Mental health evaluation or a dozen other things. They have to get shackled up so they can't hurt anybody. Meanwhile, everybody on their time out gets locked down. Standing around, waiting for them to leave, can be maddening while you watch the precious time tick by, eating up your 3 hours of free time. And yes, I am typing this fast. I'm a fast typer. Sometimes. Sometimes I'm a fast typer. Today the shout came from a not so nice CO, Mick Gruff. And it's for an especially long lockdown event. Blood sugar checks. Blood sugar checks. Ah, come on. Oh, it's the Wheel of Death, guys. Come on, Pages program. Spirit fingers. Spirit fingers to work. Yeah, there we go. Blood sugar checks. Or, as we like to call them, or as we called it, the stabbing of the pigs. Stabbing of the pigs. With 6 diabetics to stab, we got used to losing 20 minutes of our free time. Flip the page. 20 minutes of our, let's say this in a good way, 180 minutes of semi-free freedom. Lucky for us, the nurse stabbing the pigs today was red. At 5'2", 100 pounds with a spankable bubble butt, she was my jailhouse fantasy. After several months in closed custody, I started to miss everything feminine. I dreamed of a woman's touch. I laid in bed trying to remember what a girl smelled like. Even non-sexual things were deeply missed. I'd have done just about anything to get a long, comforting hug. And just be held. Maybe smell the top of the feminine forehead while I was at it. But here I was in Dicktown, where penis jokes and genital drawings abound. It got to the point where even just the presence of a female was comforting. Unfortunately, all the female COs were mean, distant, and unattractive. And that's true. They were the worst. The absolute worst. The nurses, while not cold, were all fat or old as dirt. Red was the sole source of feminine energy that perked up my day and filled my fantasies. She may only be a 7 out in the world, but she was a jailhouse 10. 10 plus plus. Exclamation point. Is that a little much? Yes. That will probably be changed in editing. If not by me, then definitely by one of my editors. I have 3 people that I kind of send all my work through, and as they edit, it slowly gets better and better. And by better and better, I mean readable. As I stood in the rec yard with 7 other inmates, straining to watch her stick the pig, I shifted uncomfortably, hoping no one noticed my hard-on. After being denied for so long, you could make me burst with just a look. Otis was the first to speak. Why don't they have any Asian nurses? Of course you'd ask that, you weird little anime nerd. Shot back Jackson. I'm just saying, said Autist. Asian. There was a pause before everyone realized that was all he had to say. You're crazy. I said. She's great. You're only saying that because you're in jail, replied Jackson. She ain't got no body. Hey, I shouted. Respect Red. And shut your goddamn whore mouth. 2 seconds ticked by before Gramps, in his old man cadence, said, if the mouth is a whore, shouldn't it be open? It was so funny and absolutely unexpected coming from him that everyone in the rec yard just about died. I have something in my eye. Yep, there we go. That's better. Just about died laughing. I can't type today. Laughing. Bang, bang, bang. Killed our laughter. It was McGruff at the rec yard door. Don't fucking harass the nurse. We weren't even talking to her. And we're behind a locked door. But no one was about to argue. It was always better to agree with the CO or stay silent. I stayed silent while Jackson nodded stupidly. Yes, sir, boss. Boss man? Yes, sir, boss. Boss man? Yes, sir, boss. No fucking boss, yelled McGruff. Boss is an acronym. Inmates call COs, standing for call COs. Stands for big old sack of shit. The problem is all the COs know what boss means. So it doesn't really work anymore. After a while, we took to calling COs we didn't like Sir, which stood for shit included retard. Not as good, but the deputies didn't know about it. And if the deputies don't know what it stands for, you can say it all day long. It's okay. Get in some water, since I'm talking so much. Get in some water. There we go. That's better. The CO inmate relationship is so one-sided that the inmate having passive aggressive tools like calling them boss or sir helps let off some steam. and keep big blow-ups from happening. As McGruff and Red left, no one was feeling super chipper. I don't think it matters how old you get. No one likes getting yelled at. After a while, with no ability to stop the yelling or means of retaliating, it starts to affect your mood. Now, not all the COs are mean screamers like McGruff. Some are really nice and helpful. I was fortunate enough to have a huge network of family and friends to support me. The downside was all the cards and letters took up all the space in my cubby. All the space in my cubby. I was really fortunate to have the friends and support group that I had. Getting too many letters. I know, what a terrible thing for me to complain about. I was lucky to get any letters. A lot of people didn't. Okay. In my cubby. I wanted to keep all the thoughtful things people had written to me, so I decided to have them kept in the property the jail holds for you until you leave. The first CO I asked for help with this told me he didn't have time. The second said he didn't do that. When I asked who did, he said, I don't know. I just work here. Would turn out to be a popular response to most of my questions, used by several different COs. And that's what I think was really annoying. One of the things that was really annoying. The fact that COs are clearly trained to avoid helping you. They know what to say, and they all have the exact same words of, oh, I don't want to do this, so I'm going to tell you this thing, which clearly isn't true or doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. The third guard I asked was Tom. We called him Tom the Turtle, because wearing his vest with his big body and much smaller limbs, he looked very turtle-like. Very turtle-like. Unlike the other deputies, Tom the Turtle looked me in the eyes, listened to me, and was helpful. Oh, sure. I can do that. Give me some time and I'll come pick them up from you in a little bit. And the turtle was as good as his word. Once I figured out who the kind and helpful COs were, and took to only interacting with them, my incarcerated life got a lot easier. And that's one of the things that I wish I had learned sooner. I wish I had known that when I was first in. it's one of those things like if you interact with the right CO, you're gonna have a better time. It's gonna be so much better for you in the long run. Yeah, it's well worth your time to find out who the good COs are. I sat watching my celly closely. He just found out that because his mom was a witness in his case, the courts weren't going to allow him to have any contact with her. His mom was his only family and support. That was a sad situation, guys. Let me tell you. At 19, he was feeling pretty helpless. Pretty hopeless. Let's do hopeless instead of helpless. I suggested he talk to mental health. Maybe they could offer support or even suggest supervised contact with his mom so he could at least hear her voice. He pressed the button and the speaker box came to life. Hello? He pressed the button and the speaker box came to life. Hello! Hi. My celly said into the speaker. I'd like to talk to mental health, please. I would learn out later on that talking to mental health is not always the best idea. In fact, I'd say that it mostly isn't. Are you suicidal? No. Sounded like he wasn't sure. Then fill out a medical kite. Oh, okay. Could a guard maybe bring me a medical kite to fill out then? Please? First off, we aren't guards. There are no guards here. Guards protect things of value. He said value slowly, making sure it was understood that we had none. If I'd been faster, told him the judge said I was worth $400,000. Second, the man over the speaker box continued. You can get its kite during your timeout. I'm not sure. I'm not out until 6 p.m. tomorrow. My cellular replied. Do. Okay. A moment of silence passed before my celly replied. So if I said I was suicidal, could I talk to mental health right away? No, but we'd strip you of your clothes, put you in a padded smock, and lock you up all alone in suicide watch. More silence before my celly let an "okay" escape his lips. The young man standing in my house looked at me, lips trembling, trying his best not to cry. "Don't cry, little guy. Don't cry." I'm sure he was afraid of what I might do or say if the waterworks started. Let's spell started right. Or type started right. Remember, when I make a mistake, it's not my spelling, it's my typing. My fingers are getting tired. That's what it is. Just know that's the truth. It's the case. Don't doubt it. I played it off, calling the CO an asshole and trying to get his mind off his circumstances and on a card game. As we got talking, turned out he was suicidal and without hope. I made him laugh by going through his options to take his life and all the most terrible ways each might go wrong. Ended the night by giving him some Bible verses. Read. He found some good stuff in John. Found some good stuff in John. You'll be happy to know. My goodness, I am not typing well. You'll be happy to know my cellie was reunited with his mother after being offered a generous plea deal. I think some COs forget that it's often not what they say, but how they say it. They've also been taught that inmates are all terrible people who they need to keep under their thumb, or they'll walk all over them. While that may be true for some, most are people just waiting patiently for trial or doing a bit of time. CO's job is in large, mainly customer service. And I think that that's something that really needs to be a focus on, right? If you are a correctional officer, you are customer service. They should be treated like customer service reps. They should be, what is the issue? Let's talk about the issue. How do we do this? And continue on from there. Yeah. Okay. Plea deal. Mainly customer service. Make deliveries, answer questions, and help inmates function properly. Proper communication should be the emphasis on every correctional employee. And in my observations, it's sorely lacking. Next time I asked a CO for a medical kit, I received it within 10 minutes. I'd had this lump at the base of my neck for a while and was told it was likely cancer. It had started hurting after trying to sleep flat on my back. So, with my mother's urging, I put in a medical kite. The next day, a nurse came to see me. Hidden? Why is it hidden? Refresh the chat. Unhide that. Thank you. Refresh the chat. Is the chat refreshed? Yes, now the chat's refreshed. Do 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 do. Well, the chat's thinking about refreshing anyway. Refresh chat says hi. Ha ha ha. I don't even know why I type. I'm talking to you. I don't know why I need to type. You guys are the ones who need to type to interact with me. I can just talk. Ha ha ha. To see me. Unfortunately, it wasn't red. I told her verbatim what was written on the kite. She said I could go see the doctor if I wanted. Since she hadn't told me anything or given me any treatment options, I guessed I'd go see the doctor. The next day, deputies came, wrapped me up in chains, and took me to see the doctor. Once in the doctor's little jail office, I was weighed and measured. I'd gained 8 pounds since being incarcerated. I shrugged it off as stress weight. Clearly it was stress weight. I gained weight, I was in stress weight. The doctor then saw me in my chains. He felt my lump and told me it wasn't lymphoma, but lymproma. Similar, but not cancerous. Thank God. I told him it hurt to sleep on it, so he told me not to sleep on it. Whoa. No wonder we pay doctors so much. I asked if there was anything he could do. He said no. It isn't medically necessary. It isn't medically necessary. Our entire conversation probably took 3 minutes. A few days later, I was surprised when I got a bill for $10, citing a doctor visit. I felt a little ripped off. I never got a good reason why the jail's medical can't be charged insurance. Forcing people to pay out of pocket for all their medical needs, especially those requiring insulin or expensive medications, when they have insurance that covers their needs, seems wrong. And it is wrong. It is wrong. There's no reason insurance shouldn't be taken advantage of, right? Like, why? Just use insurance. Just bill the insurance. There's no reason for it, and it's really not acceptable in my opinion, especially when someone is diabetic and they need insulin to survive. You're really going to make them pay for insulin out of pocket when their insurance covers insulin? It just some of the bills I saw and some of the medical expenses, outrageous, right? Thousands of dollars that should have been billed to insurance. The time and place to ask the CO for anything is at the door to the pod during your timeout, while the deputies do their hourly walkthrough. Juanita, a grumpy and lumpy woman in her early 50s, was at the pod door today. Most female COs seem to be in a constant state of irritated anger. Like they're on their period and can't wait to take their aggression out on somebody. Because of Juanita's constant PMSing. Boop, boop. Phone's going off. Dun, 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 dun. Constant PMSing. We took to calling her Mad Cow. Did I feel good about calling her Mad Cow? Yes, I did, because that's what she was. I threw my old towel through the door like we're told to, before asking, can I get a new towel? In my normal chipper voice. Chipper tone. Juanita looked at me with disdain in spades as she said, please? My smile disappeared. My lips were a straight, unmoving line as I stared her down. 5 Mississippis? Oh my goodness. What is going on, guys? Chipper. Juanita? Nope, that is a name. I'm going to leave it that way. Disdain in spades. I need to work on my typing. I've been thinking about getting one of the ergonomic keyboards. I hear that they're a lot faster and better, easier to use. So I may have to do that. 5 Mississippis passed as we faced each other before she finally threw a towel at my feet. Nope, at my face. Please goes a long way. I wanted to scream and yell. I wanted to scream, yell, and curse. But I simply turned and walked away without a word. How some of the COs talked down to inmates was infuriating. Inmates are adults and should be treated as such. At this point, I'd be incarcerated for nearly 5 months. I was in a position where I had to ask for soap, towel, garbage bag, and toothpaste. That means I was asking a deputy to give me those basic essentials multiple times a day, every day of my life. Inmates shouldn't be made to beg for these things every time they need them. They should be able to get what they need and go about their day. After being talked down to and made to feel inferior for such a long period of time, I can understand why some inmates turn violent. The amount of pent-up anger and aggression in a single pod is staggering. Not long after Juanita's pleas, which happened several times with multiple COs, I was standing at my door looking at the TV when a deputy walked past. He stopped and said, So I hear you have a hunchback. Not what I expected. What? Yeah. A big growth on your back. I think he was hoping I'd show him. Wait, so you guys... Bum, 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 bum. So wait, you guys know what's going on with us medically? He gave a shrug. Sometimes. Isn't that against HIPAA? HIPAA is the Health Information Protection and Privacy Act. In case you didn't know, he started a moment before saying, no, and walking away. Now, the CO wasn't the one I gave my medical kite to, nor was he at the doctor's office. So, someone told him about my medical condition. Apparently, doctor-patient partiality doesn't exist in jail. In my opinion, in my opinion, deputies shouldn't even be looking at my medical information. They should simply turn the kite into the medical professional. I talked with Leprechaun and we decided to put a kite in addressing possible HIPAA violations. The response back told us that if we didn't want COs to read our medical kites, then tell the CO not to read it when we hand it to them. Which is just absolutely ridiculous, right? Like, come on. Just don't read the medical kites. It's HIPAA. It's our privacy. It's our private information. And there's absolutely zero reason why someone should be reading our information, our private medical information. I don't care if you're an inmate or anybody. Just shouldn't be reading it. Alright, guys. I think that's going to be it for now. I am getting hungry. It's time to go feed the goats and then feed myself. So, have a fantastic rest of your day, as always. Thank you so much for coming on. Once again, I stream live starting at 2 o'clock every single weekday. So, enjoy me as I write, and I hope that you also will check out my podcast. We'll check out short stories, and of course, you can find all of that on Patreon, and I've got links. So, have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay healthy. Stay happy.